came from Minneapolis, which is the land of 1,000 lakes.
Lakers.
I've always said that the Utah Jazz should just swap names with somebody. Maybe it's the Lakers. The LA Jazz? Why not? You could have
all of this. We used to take so much heat for being the Jazz and keeping that name from New Orleans, but the Lakers did it. And no one talks about it.
Yeah.
So I don't get that.
Well, and the New Orleans Hornets eventually changed their name to the Pelicans.
Right. They were Charlotte for that because Charlotte's full of beat.
Ooh, hadn't really thought about that.
But it's not like you don't have Hornets in Louisiana. So it's like if they change their name, but
yeah. If you go listen, I
mean, although LA Lakers has always been funny to me because it's like, okay, there are a couple of very small lakes,
very, very small,
but not really. You know?
Yeah, it's basically saying
like, they're so great. It's a celeb
is named after our least interesting feature.
Right. Yeah, like you don't. No one is visiting LA.
It'd be like calling them the LA Mass Transits. We have it technically.
You know what? What if
the LA 101s?
The LA Metro Links.
LA Metro Links. That's what South Lake City. All right, are we live?
We're live.
All right.
So alive. So alive.
Do you feel alive? Uh-oh. My dock isn't loaded.
That's no good.
It's no bueno. Also, Scott just froze on me.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. I was hoping it wasn't me. I was waiting for someone else.
I'm going to disconnect. Not
just for the heck of it.
I'm going to tell Scott.
Just audio, just because sometimes
my dock didn't.
My computer is starting to be weird.
Cause Scott to freeze.
I know what to do. Heather Frank, who is moving to a new place.
Oh, wait. I can't see a picture of you. Say something, Scott.
Wait, I heard him. That was weird.
Yeah, I did too.
That might have been an echo in the machine.
I think it was because he was referring to the dock, which I hadn't talked about in a minute.
People talk about the ghost of the machine. That was the echo.
Oh, and Sarah, you saw the Ming Chi Kuo thing that I put in on line 19 for you?
I did, but did you change it?
No, I just it was a last minute ad. I wanted to make
no problem.
It went away from me.
There you are.
I don't know what that was. Yeah.
Yeah, you froze. We couldn't hear you. And then you said something about the dock way late.
Weird.
It was like a caching issue or something. Who knows? Well, now it's happened again.
Oh, Scott.
Hold on.
Oh.
Hold on. Let me check my speed. Maybe something's
now
up.
We hear hold on. So that's good.
Hold on just a sec.
Just holding, sir. Holding pattern.
Holding pattern.
I'm in a holding.
Hold the phone.
All right. Downloads are fine. They're like 900 meg. Let's see what uploads look like. 2. 74 megabyte. Yeah, I should be fine. I don't
know what that is. All right. Well,
YouTube was farting around yesterday. I hope we're not part of that. Maybe.
Oh, right. YouTube was off. People panicked. The world was ending. YouTube was down for an hour. That would have been bad if it had happened right now.
This is true.
Bless you, Roger.
I'm sorry.
Bless you, my son.
Kids' goodies. They never leave.
Yeah, that's true.
How's that sore throat going for you, Roger? Mine is actually way better.
It's exactly the same.
1 minute to showtime, folks. Places, everyone.
Places.
Put on your masks. Get your costumes ready. 45 seconds. It's time to play the music, right? Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's time to light the
lights.
It's time to get things started on the DTNS tonight. Oh, I talked to the Acast guy this morning.
Hey.
And it was afternoon for him. So we had one of those funny, like, good afternoon. Well, it's morning for me.
Time zones. How do they work?
15 seconds. And Sarah, can you read line 6 or line 3?
I can, and I will.
Thank you so much for your support.
You are so welcome.
All right. 8, 7, 5. I can't count. 3, 2, 1.
Thanks to everybody who supports Daily Tech News Show directly. To find out more, head to dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
This is the Daily Tech News for Wednesday, October 17th, 2018 in Los Angeles. I'm Tom Merritt.
And from Studio Feline, I'm Sarah Lane.
From a place filled with brand new poker chips, I'm Scott Johnson.
And I'm Roger Chang.
And poker chips? This is your Kickstarter, right?
My Kickstarter's coming in finally, and all the boxes are arriving, and it's about to get crazy around here. But yeah, it's all good. It means we're shipping.
Don't lose them all tonight in a big bet.
I know, dude. That's the problem. Gamblers shouldn't do Kickstarters for poker cards.
Don't play with your own chips, is what they say. We are going to actually continue our conversation from yesterday, although Patrick Beja is not here. Scott Johnson is, and we're going to talk about streaming services that don't involve games, or at least uses of streaming services, and where that might fit into your world, including progressive web apps. Although that's not exactly a streaming service, we'll introduce you to that concept and tell you how it all ties in. Let's start with a few tech things you should know.
Skydio is selling its R1 autonomous drone for $1,999 at U.S. Apple stores. The drone can be controlled from an Apple Watch, letting you set commands like follow or orbit.
As long as I don't steer it with my watch. Baidu is the first Chinese company to join the Partnership on AI, which develops ethical guidelines for AI research. It already has Google, Apple, and Facebook as members, and they joined up.
Speaking of some of those, Apple, Google, Microsoft, and Mozilla have announced a unified plan to deprecate the use of TLS 1.0 and 1.1 by March 2020. That's the protocol you use to keep your web connection secure. It's the little lock. TLS is built on SSL, which it has replaced in securing browser connections, and sites are being given advice to switch to TLS 1.2 or 1.3 again by March 2020.
A lot of Apple news today. Analyst Ming-Chi Kuo now agrees with a Bloomberg report from April that said Apple could switch to ARM-based processors for its Macs as early as 2020. Kuo points out that TSMC, which makes the A-series chips for Apple mobile devices, would stand to benefit.
It's almost more TSMC news than it is Apple news.
Right.
Especially if you're working for TSMC. All right, let's talk a little bit more about Facebook. We got a couple of Facebook stories. Scott has the first.
Well, Facebook admitted in September 2016 that it had inflated average video viewing figures by not counting views less than 3 seconds. At the time, it said it had discovered the issue 1 month before August 2016. I remember this. However, a company called LLE1 is suing Facebook, and it's as a part of the court proceedings for this thing. Got to review internal Facebook records. Lawyers for the case now say Facebook knew about the inflation in January of 2015, and that it resulted in a 150 to 900% rise in average time, not 60 to 80 as Facebook had claimed. The two sides will appear before U.S. District Judge Jeffrey White in a Oakland court on December 14th, 2018 at 9 a.m. That's a big jump, 60 to 80 to 150 to 900. That's no small change there in your numbers.
So let's go back over this real quickly. Facebook said in September that a month ago, we realized that we weren't counting views less than 3 seconds in the average viewing time. And of course, if you get rid of everything that's 3 seconds, suddenly the average jumps, right? Because 3 seconds would bring the average down. So they said, we apologize for this. We fixed it. But LLE1 et al., by the way, there's other people as part of the sued Facebook for this, saying, we think something shady's going on here. You were trying to trick us into buying ads. It didn't affect ads directly, but it could have convinced someone to buy ads because they saw, oh, that's your view time. That's pretty good. We want to be part of that. So they, as part of discovery for the court case, found internal records that indicate that Facebook engineers knew about this back in 2015. So more than a year before Facebook announced it had discovered it. The obvious, if you're LLE1, is they were lying and covering it up. Usually the answers are not quite that simple. I wonder if it was engineers trying to tell their bosses something that the bosses are like, that's not important, while the advertising people weren't hearing about it and going out with the bigger number.
Well, as you know, we all work in internet video. We all know that the ad space is still a bit of a Wild West situation. And I think my initial question is this something to sue Facebook over? If Facebook just was like, I don't know, like the 3 second people or people who clicked on something by accident, because that's all it is, right? It's either like you go like, oh, this is not what I wanted, or I clicked on it by accident. I'm going out. I'm not going to watch any ad that might be associated with this video. Okay, well, that's something that an advertiser obviously wants to know about. But is Facebook suable for not providing that information just because the advertiser didn't really understand what was going on with the analytics?
Yes, I think they are. If you can show in court that Facebook used that average view time to convince you to buy an ad you otherwise wouldn't have, and it was before 2016 when they knew about it but weren't saying, then yeah, I think you could.
Yeah, I think they might have a case. We'll have to see. I hope that must be a nightmare, discovery. I just want to put that out there. I've been involved in one other court case where I had to help with some discovery stuff. It was unreal. I wasn't being sued, but never been a part of a bigger pain in my butt in my life than that. So I know it's a big company. Everyone's got lawyers, a million legal people all running around doing stuff. It sounds terrible to me.
Well, since we're talking about Facebook, let's talk about another story. When Facebook announced its Portal voice-activated speaker, the company told Recode no data would be collected through Portal to be used for targeting ads. Facebook has since corrected itself, noting that while Portal itself won't collect data for ad targeting, the services it uses might. And in the case of Facebook Messenger, which is used for placing calls, it definitely will, since Messenger does that now already. Portal itself, however, will not run ads.
Yeah. So this is, again, I think it's the same thing going on. One part of the company not knowing what the other part is doing. The Portal people were like, we're not going to run ads. We're not collecting any data from the use of Portal. So you can say there won't be any data collection. And the Messenger people are like hearing that going, well, hold on. Messenger collects data. I mean, it always has. So you're running Messenger on Portal. Technically, there's going to be some data collected, and any third-party app you run like Spotify or something might be collecting data too. It's a case of just not thinking it through, I guess. Well,
when your company is big enough to be basically multiple companies in one, and they're certainly not the only organization out there that you can point to that has this problem these days. I think this just happens. Engineering doesn't talk to PR. PR doesn't talk to art department. Art department doesn't talk to accounting, and that they should, but sometimes they don't. And you end up with these kinds of weird messaging. And I don't know. I
guess what I'm trying to say is not that Facebook is off the hook. Like, well, so no harm done. I don't think it's because Facebook is maliciously trying to figure out how to make themselves look bad in the public. They're just not very good at this stuff sometimes.
Yeah, I think I agree.
Yeah. In the Netflix earnings report, Netflix CEO Reed Hastings had a lot to say about new Fox. Now, that is not a Fox with a different sweetener that will eventually become classic Fox, and instead is the part of Fox that Disney isn't buying. So Fox's broadcast channels, Fox News, Fox Business, the national sports channels, for the most part. Hastings said in the Netflix earnings report, new Fox appears to have a great strategy, which is to focus on large, simultaneous viewing sports and news. Other linear networks are likely to follow this model over time. He's basically saying, look, you can try to compete with us. We're killing it. We're the entertainment source if you just want to sit down and pick something in your own time. The only way to compete and stay alive is what new Fox is doing, which is do the stuff we're not going to do, live news and sports.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my impression of this comment from him is, my first impression was, we're going to get, this is him inching more toward talking about live stuff on Netflix, but that's not what this is.
No, and he's actually said in a different venue, well, Ted Sarandos said it, not Hastings, but right. I said live stuff isn't very entertaining, so we wouldn't do that.
Interesting thing to say.
I don't believe that at all.
Well, he was talking about the Supreme Court nomination hearings. He's like, that's not us. We don't do news. He wasn't talking about sports and stuff, but
and that's fine. And Netflix has been doing quite well over the last few years. However, there are certain things that I don't get from Netflix, and a lot of that has to do with live appointment programming. So for Hastings to be sort of saying, you know what new Fox is doing really well is this live stuff, doesn't mean they're going to acquire that or merge or anything of the sort. But I do think that there is no way that Netflix executives aren't talking about how to incorporate something like this, especially with YouTube television and some of the other offerings that have actually become really advantageous, particularly monetarily for a lot of us who have cut the cord.
I read this earnings report as them putting down their foot and saying, yeah, we are not going into that space.
Yeah.
We think that is the other thing that you want to get alongside Netflix. If you're trying to be Warner Media and create a Netflix competitor, you're screwed. We're going to dominate that. And I think he's right that there will be two types of services in the future, maybe three. One service is like Netflix, on demand stuff I want to watch. I get to pick it. Live, which is YouTube TV, which is potentially Fox Now, a Fox Now branded service. And then the wholesaler like Amazon, where they're like, we have our own thing, but we also can let you add on HBO and Stars and other stuff if you just want to have it all in one bill.
Yeah, it does kind of seem like that. I don't know. I think the idea of live stuff on Netflix is probably not going to come in the way we think. They're working on that build your own adventure stuff and other strange little ideas that maybe are a little outside of what we're thinking of. So I'm with Tom, but I also think it's crazy to think that Netflix won't experiment. They probably will. The website privacy.apple.com, it's just such a common bookmarkable name, now includes the ability for Apple users to search what data Apple stores about them and download it. All right. So you want to go over there and find out what they got on you. Hot dang, it's your lucky day. It includes things like cloud bookmarks, iTunes purchases, and your Apple Care support history. Apple also launched the intelligent tracking prevention to reduce ad targeting and changed browser settings to combat fingerprinting. I kid around a little bit here, but I actually really am excited about this. Also a little nervous to see all the stuff that I bought over the years. We're done.
It's Apple doubling down on we're the people who really do respect your privacy. We're going to make it, as part of GDPR, easier for you to see what data we have about you and even download it and sift through it. So you can search to say, do they know this about me? Or you can just download it all and look at it all at your own leisure. But, it's not a bad thing. And they kind of have to do it for Europe. But making it available for everybody is a smart move because people are, at least the buzz is that people are very concerned about privacy. And there are some vocal people who are.
I'm on the page right now, just so people know what you get when you log in. You can get a copy of all your data. You can correct any of your data if you think any of your personal information is wrong. There's a deactivate your account, which in theory means your account stays intact, just deactivated. And then the final option is delete your account, which says it will permanently delete your account and any associated data from Apple services. So in theory, if you really wanted to rage quit Apple, you could get rid of it all in a single click here, it looks like.
And if you don't believe Apple doesn't track you, this is supposed to help prove it. Like, look, we don't have your tracking information in here. And we even launched these new programs to help combat tracking if you're using Safari anyway.
Yeah. Oh man, there's a huge list here, you guys. I'm scared. I don't want to look at it. All right.
But why are you scared? Like, you're scared of your iTunes purchase history?
Well,
Stuff.
I'll tell you what it is, Sarah. A couple of years ago, or maybe not even that long ago, maybe less than a year ago, I was curious about what I have spent over time on Steam. And Steam has this little algorithm you can run that'll say, all right, we've checked against your account. Here's everything you've spent. Here's everything you have. And it's this big list. And I went in there thinking, oh, it won't be too bad. It was kind of nightmarish how many times I bought something even small and it added up on Steam. So this gives me the same kind of list. I'm a little trepidatious.
Okay, but that's like kind of like logging into your Wells Fargo account and being like, been paying too much for coffee for the last couple of years. I mean,
I get it.
Yeah,
I just don't like to know. There's a thing you can do in World of Warcraft where you can hit /played. I do not recommend you do it if you want to never understand how much actual time you played in a video game, because it is kind of shocking to your system, and it does it in days. So it'll say, you've played 600 days. That's 600 solid 24-hour days. That kind of information is sometimes best left out of my eyesight.
So you don't like the screen time feature on iOS, huh?
Actually, you know what? I do like that.
Okay.
Because
I do not, because it makes me seem like a freak.
See, this is what's fun about it, though, or what I like about it. It's not like it's saying, hey, for the last 10 years, here's your screen time. That I don't want. I do like that it says, hey, in the last 7 days, you really had too much Twitter time. I like being told that because I can make a decision and actually change course if that's what is something I want.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. All kidding aside, there have been some time where it's like your average screen time is 3.5 hours a day or something like that, where I'm like, really? That's a lot. I know I use it for work and everything, but it's a lot. All right, moving on. Samsung launched Exynos auto chips and ISOCELL auto image sensors, expanding its chip line outside mobile devices. The Exynos line will include chips devoted to driver assistance, infotainment, and telematics. ISOCELL sensors include three models that range from 960p to 4K. Samsung also announced it has acquired Z-Labs, a Spanish analytics company that uses AI to help carriers monitor network performance down to the individual subscriber level. Samsung also added that Z-Labs will operate as a fully owned subsidiary.
So just good to know kind of stuff. Samsung moving its chip business into auto. We talked yesterday about ARM launching a more fully funded R&D effort towards different uses of ARM outside of mobile devices. This is the wide new world of chip making where Intel doesn't dominate every market. And Samsung very wisely wants to get into the automotive market. It's a good growth area to be in, as people believe that self-driving cars and at the very least smart car fleets are going to become the wave of the future. And another wave of the future is 5G. And so buying a company that can help a carrier understand and maximize its brand new 5G network, that's a brave new world, another good money move for Samsung, I believe.
Mm-hmm. I like it.
Yeah, who doesn't? Hey, folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, be sure to subscribe to dailytechheadlines.com. All right, we didn't talk about Chrome 70 coming out for Windows, Mac, and Linux, and it includes the option to turn off that automatic sign-in. If you didn't like that signing into the Chrome browser also signed you into YouTube and Gmail and everything else, you can turn that off so that when you sign into one, it doesn't automatically sign you in the other, although it remains the default option in Chrome 70. It also has an AV1 decoder. That's a great open platform for video. The ability to restrict extensions access to websites. So if there's an extension that you like, but you don't trust, and you want to make sure it doesn't access any website other than the one it's supposed to, you can do that. And Chrome 70 supports something called Progressive Web Apps on Windows, which can be launched from the Start menu. Progressive Web Apps for desktop particularly. Progressive Web Apps are interesting. Google will extend desktop PWA support to Mac, Linux, and Mac and Linux in Chrome 72. It already does it in Chrome OS. And if you're like, hold on, what's Progressive Web App to begin with? It loads like a regular web page, but it can act like an app. It can work offline. It can deliver push notifications. It can access your device hardware in a way that a native app would, but a web page normally doesn't. And because it's using various standards to do this, it works in any browser. It doesn't have to work in a particular browser as long as the browser supports standards. So a Progressive Web App will work in Safari. It'll work in Edge. It'll work in Chrome. However, app-like features such as independence of connectivity, working offline, installing to the home screen like an app or the Start menu, push messaging, that depends on browser support. So if you go to the PWA directory, the official Progressive Web App directory at pwa-directory.appspot.com/PWAS, you can find a lot of Progressive Web Apps, and they'll work in whatever browser you put on them, but only in Chrome OS. And now in Windows 10, in Chrome 70, could you install them? And installing them means they'll work offline and they'll work like an app. The idea, Scott, is that you have something that's pushed down from the internet that works no matter what device you're using, which got us talking on the morning stream this morning about the idea of, well, what if I don't even want to have it downloaded at all?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's funny. We all laughed at Steve Jobs in 2007 and 8 when he was trying to explain why they wouldn't have native apps, at least not right away. And he kept saying, oh, web apps, they're the future. That's the thing. And then they went ahead and made a hugely successful app store that continues to this day and seemed to sort of squash any ideas that Steve Jobs had about apps or the future of them. But I think maybe he was just a little ahead of his time, or maybe he just got lucky with what's happening now, because this makes perfect sense to me. What happened with our conversation this morning is it started to fan out a little bit. I had some time. I know Patrick talked about it, but I had some time with Assassin's Creed via Chrome. And I was really blown away by how well that went. And it got me to thinking about, outside of gaming, what are the possibilities? I subscribe to Adobe CC, the Creative Suite, and I need it for almost everything I do, from audio and video production all the way over to everything I do with art stuff. And so the idea that one day, hopefully soon, I could have a thinner client, say a crummier notebook or anything with a screen on it with a way to connect to the internet at speeds needed to make this happen, that I could log into something like Photoshop on a tablet and use native Photoshop to create the stuff I'm creating and have local files that sync with cloud files and do it in a way that is so seamless that you don't even think about it. This is just the way you run your apps now. That's an enormous change to the business, where there's a lot of compatibility questions all throughout the chain of production. This now limits it to more of a one-to-many service, and you just have to have compatibility on the one, and then the many, the only breaking compatibility could be internet connection. And as they improve how that works and what buffers, what doesn't, how you deal with the latency issues that gaming is, quite frankly, pushing forward, they roll that stuff into regular app usage, and before you know it, you're just renting services to use everything. And I heard somebody this morning in our chat room go, "I'll just keep using Google Docs, thank you very much." And I went, no, that is what you. I mean, you are just in one of the footprints leading us to this other thing.
That they're using a more limited version of what we're talking about.
Exactly. You're using cloud-based stuff, which 10 years ago people would have laughed at the idea of Google Docs being ubiquitous and as functional as it is. So I just see that as another step toward this idea where we just don't think about it, Tom. I run Photoshop. It's not pulling any resources on my side other than the minimums. It's not taking up 4 to 6 gigabytes of storage just to run the thing. It's not taking tons of RAM and memory. I'm just using the cloud for all of it. And that's really exciting.
And I think the thing that ties them together, Assassin's Creed is the thing that ties them together, right? You were playing a game in Chrome,
right.
which is like playing an app in Chrome. It's not a progressive web app, but it's the same idea of it doesn't matter what operating system I'm on anymore. If progressive web apps take off, I can just use whatever I have and get the same selection of apps, and the developers only have to code them once, and it'll be great. However, the step beyond that is like what Blade provides. We've talked about this before on the show. Blade is a French company that markets itself as gaming, but essentially just rents you a Windows machine with a 1080, I think it's a 1080 NVIDIA processor, so that you can have a really powerful computer and use it on your crappy laptop, because it's just streaming it to you. So you can essentially rent a powerful computer without having to buy a new powerful computer, which is the same idea of I don't, again, have to think about what computer I'm using, what device I have. I can still get maximum quality from it. So there's something similar between both of these ideas that I think could point the way to the future. There's some impediments to both things, which is basically adoption. But from what we can tell, what Patrick was talking about with gaming yesterday, there's no reason that if the latency is short enough to play games, that you couldn't use it for Office and Photoshop and even video editing like Premiere.
Oh, absolutely. And there's some cool scaling that's happening now. Like we've come a long, long way from OnLive, which was really innovative and cool when it hit. But, huge changes have happened since then on how this stuff works on local networks, on broader networks, on the internet itself, like how you can reduce latency on lower speed connections, improve that experience, give the user more control over that sort of thing. Like we're getting there, and all the old fears are still there. Well, what's to stop them? If they turn it off for me, they're turning it off for everybody, and there's nothing I can do about it. Or what if my ISP goes down? These are all valid questions, but like any service that you demand uptime from, they'll either get your money or they won't, and they'll work real hard to keep it and have 99.9% uptime. And hopefully your ISP falls in line.
5 nines, but yeah,
sure. But like
99.9 would be pretty bad.
It would be. But like the idea of these things, like I just ask people to take their brains, go back a decade, and look at how you felt about digital only games, movies, and TV shows and music, and how you were like, well, I don't like that. I like to have it on my shelf on a CD.
And there's people in the audience right now saying, I'm that way right now.
And you will be, because there's always a long tail and it takes forever to change. This is like self-driving cars or any of these techs we talked about.
I'm going to add something really quick, just to go short on time. This is kind of going back to the whole kind of client server model where back in the day, you would access whatever was on the server from a dumb terminal. You didn't need any real smarts in the interface that you were using because everything was happening on the back end. And in a way, that's kind of what we see right now, kind of Larry Ellison's Net PC.
No, it's always been there. It's all a matter of resources and application, whether the application could run remotely or not. And in the old terminal days, it's the only way it could happen. You didn't have the ability to afford to give everyone their own computer on their desktop. But then that got really cheap. And suddenly it was like, well, we don't have the bandwidth to do what we can do on a desktop for everyone over their terminal. So it swung the other way. It's as the pendulum might be swinging back now.
We shall see. I love it. I think this stuff's great. We should all embrace it and quit acting like they're taking something away from us. I think it's very exciting.
Wait, were they acting that way?
I don't know. I may have just built a straw man and said it right there.
Stop that straw man. You stop acting that way. I don't like it.
Well, thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. You are not straw men, any of you.
No.
Or women. Submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. We're also on Facebook. Hang out with us there if you like. Facebook.com/groups/dailytechnewsshow.
Let's see what's in the mailbag, Sarah.
Well, you know, it's funny. Craig wrote in and echoed something that Scott said just a few minutes ago. Craig says, I was invited by Ubisoft to play Assassin's Creed Odyssey on Project Stream. I started playing yesterday and found it to be virtually flawless. After this experience, I feel comfortable saying game streaming has arrived.
Yeah, I mean, just to tack on to the end of that, my experience of that with that was similar. And I was shocked that it worked as well as it did because part of my brain knew I launched it in Chrome, of all places. And then now it's full screen and running like I've got some hot, fully decked out, state-of-the-art gaming PC, and I didn't have any lag. It was incredible. And I know there's been other technologies like this, but to do that in a browser on an old Mac notebook on a okay sort of Wi-Fi connection was kind of mind-blowing. So we're in the gaming space anyway. I think this stuff's going to happen sooner because it'll get to the point where you're just having a great experience and you don't need to argue about whether it's fast enough or whatever. It just will be. And I think he's right. Therefore, I think I'm right.
And as far as we know, Craig is in no way made of straw.
No, but it's Halloween time, but so I understand wanting to be made of straw right now.
Craig wants to be a scarecrow for Halloween. That is
sure.
Fun.
Yeah, we're not taking that away from him.
That is fine. Thank you for the feedback and everybody who gives us feedback every day. You help us make our show better. Also, thanks to Scott Johnson for all your witty prose and not being a straw man ever as well. Tell folks where they can keep up with your other work.
Well, I'd rather have witty prose than witty cons. Anyway, lot going on. Man, this Kickstarter fulfillment's going to be the big thing here for a little bit. But if you are going to BlizzCon this year, which is in a couple of weeks in Anaheim, California, do find me. I have these great stickers I'm giving away that were only going to be for that event, and I don't have millions of them. So if you see me there, do not be afraid. Come up, say hi. I'll give you a sticker, and you can enjoy it. If you have questions about why does any of this matter to me, go over to frogpants.com, and you will likely find out why. You can also follow me on Twitter at Scott Johnson.
There are all kinds of ways you can choose to support Daily Tech News Show, and they're listed at dailytechnewsshow.com/support. You can either just subscribe. Most of you are just subscribed to the public feed, and you're supporting us that way. You can tell your friends. You can also support more directly and get some perks like longer versions of the show, ad-free versions of the show at patreon.com/DTNS. We even have a store. If you want to show off your DTNS love, buy a hat or a shirt or a sweatshirt at dailytechnewsshow.com/store.
I can tell you these are comfy hats. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're also live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 2030 UTC. And you can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live.
Back tomorrow with Justin Robert Young. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Nice.
Great show. What do we call it?
Nailed it.
10 out of 10. No, seriously.
If you were dog rates, it would be 12 out of 10.
No, you know what thing we didn't talk about, Tom? Oh, we can talk about it later. hardware. What I was going to say is hardware is going to get less expensive because we're all going to need just thin clients that don't need to be special anymore as we move forward. And that's
yeah, I was thinking about that too. Like hardware replacement rates slow down if this is true.
So this dings people though, like Apple.
Maybe not for phones, but for laptops for sure.
I think what's going to happen is the home server market's going to explode, where people do kind of a localized internet, the appification of the internet. No, too long.
Maybe.
What else do we got? Stop that straw man.
Stop that straw man.
Surgical.
Squeeze him.
Halt.
And his straw. No, grab all of him. Don't just pull straw out of him.
Streamlining productivity. Get it? Stream-lining.
Yeah. That's clever. I like it.
Is,
All right, done.
Okay.
Yeah, pick it.
Or okay.
Beautiful.
Streamlining productivity. Anyway, you were saying, Scott?
I think I was saying that. It just would, since this stuff never happens overnight. You know, it's a long thing, and who knows how it turns out. But if you had to introduce it overnight, people like Apple and Dell and all our hardware manufacturers would suddenly go, "Oh, I guess all we're selling are these now." But at the same time,
well, Apple's not selling nobody's selling as many laptops as they used to. So that may not be as big of a deal anymore.
We might be heading there. And so, you know, it's a matter of like, well, what does something cost? Is it $199? And that's just a screen and a box and a connection. Like
it'll probably end up looking like a laptop, because that is probably the most profitable form factor.
Or nobody replaces anything because they just keep their hardware they've got and just do the services, and they don't upgrade anymore.
You keep it a lot longer. I don't think you keep it forever, because at some point it becomes incompatible even with the streaming service, or the internet gets faster and you need a new Wi-Fi protocol that yours doesn't support, something like that.
You'll need something.
Can keep it for a lot longer than you would now.
Right.
You would still need something special for like flights, right? To store and run locally, unless you're trying to run it on the plane. Yeah, you're on the plane and you're working.
You just use the internet.
I would
use the internet on the plane.
Yeah, and that will just improve, right? Like
it's already getting super fast. Like you can stream video on planes now.
That'll be like a parallel technology that will continue to grow because there's benefits to people paying more to have such access. It's the future. People may not like it or know it yet. And I know we all like to have a thing and keep a thing, but I'll tell you.
I know. I think it's leaning toward that, but I don't think it's going to go full bore.
Well,
no more than laptops didn't kill desktops.
Well,
right?
Yeah. I mean, like for
me,
it's
going to be a reason that somebody will have for the old form factor. Right? I don't think anything ever.
Well, it's not even a form factor. It's just a processing model, right? Are you going to keep everything local, or are you going to put it?
Well, there will be some specialty reasons to keep it local, but it will be a unusual circumstance, I think, or iconoclasts or specialty uses. I mean, if for instance, Sarah, if you like right now, Shadow, I think is $35 a month, but let's say the price comes down. If for $10 a month, you could have access to a fully up-to-date editing rig to do this show, your video editing and everything on, and you didn't have to change your laptop. You can just keep the laptop you have for the next several years. Does that sound attractive to you?
Yes, very much.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds like almost free.
Right now it's $35 a month. Because you could do it for $35.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And that's what we were talking about. Premiere's I'm blanking on the name of it.
Premiere Rush.
Right. Like that's the thing, is like many of us use programs that are, the best in the biz, but we use several features of many. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that I could say about Premiere or Logic or lots of programs that I use, is like, it does what I need it to do, but I'm not taking advantage of everything. I would say the same thing about Photoshop. I'm just not a graphics whiz. I can do a couple of things, but other programs that are cheaper do that nicely. So if I can have a something that's closer to $10 a month rather than 30, why wouldn't I take advantage of it? Now, of course, that won't apply to everybody, especially like a super pro user that actually needs all the features that are available. Great, fine. But I think most people are overpaying for features that they're not using.
Well, and I'm asking a different question, which is you will never have to replace your laptop. You will have access to a top level machine that you can install Premiere on. You can do everything on, and it will have the latest graphics card, the latest everything. It's just you're accessing it over the internet. And now you don't have to worry about upgrading your hardware.
Yeah. Or your OS. That matter.
You know, I might be a weird use case because my laptop keyboard is currently full of sand. So I actually want a new laptop.
Fair enough. Yeah. Well, no, I think that's a fair thing. Like that
so
goes back.
There's a little bit of like, hardware depreciation.
You won't keep hardware forever for other reasons, right?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if you said to me, if you said today, Scott, would you like to stop buying new hardware and just you would have a service that would just grow instead with me? Because I'm already paying for a lot of it anyway. Like I would just pay one time for all. I mean, that sounds really good to me, like really good. And I don't think it gives me any less control of things. I mean, this is going to be a part of the market working itself out, but you know, I would still want to have a lot of control. Let's say Audition. I love Audition. I use it every day for every show I do. I think it's an amazing piece of audio software and editing software. So keep giving me that. Give me all of the aspects of it through whatever thin client I want and have it grow with me and me not having to go, oh, things are getting slow now for this freaking software. I could better go buy another $1,000 box or whatever. Like, I don't want to do that anymore. I just want to keep growing with it and let me have my files and let me control the files and let me control everything about it. But I'll do that. Now, the big hang up about all of this still in my mind and many others, I'm sure, can I count on Comcast every day to make sure I'm never down? No, not right now. I can't.
Well, but that's getting better.
It is getting better. Right. It is. But don't you think that's the big hang up? Like,
I mean, there's a multiple level hang up. One is connectivity, but at the same time, there's not millions of people with Honda generators in their garage just in case the public utility decides not to supply electricity to your house. I mean, do you have one in your house? I mean, there's a potential for you not having electricity.
Or banks. What if you go to the bank and the bank has an outage? Oh, we can't get you your money today.
I mean, those are always. I guess we'll always.
That's why I keep the money in the mattress.
Or water when there's an earthquake.
Yeah,
that's why I have a water heater.
Yeah.
You should have emergency plans for that stuff, but you don't not live in a house with water service. Like, oh, I only live in a house with its own well. It's the only way I live.
Exactly. Yeah.
Although that's kind of a thing now in LA County.
Think of it actually.
Cisterns.
No, yeah, but it's not the majority.
But that's not the norm.
That's not what we're not talking about the fact that something exists, but what is the prevailing massive adoption?
I would rather have a distributed model where I would have a home server that runs everything. My games, my home entertainment, whatever, but you would just have screens and interfaces throughout the house wherever you needed it.
So you want to run your own cloud service. Most people won't want to do that though.
Well, I'm hoping that they'll be more localized so that if you ever have a problem,
you can already do that. You can do that right now, and the latency will be virtually nothing because it's on a home network. Like, that's not a thing you have to wait for to do. Go do it.
Yeah, that part's the powers, is the only real hang up there. But then again, like I'm not looking for a service where if a nuke drops, boy, that Photoshop better still be up. We're gonna have bigger issues if a nuke drops, Yeah. Like, it's not gonna be my first thought, but as much uptime as possible. We as a society have gotten to a place, at least in where we are now. I'm not trying to say I don't know the plights in places of the world where they have power part of the day and don't the rest of the day, or no power at all, or good water, all that. But let's just, look at the ideal here for a second. We're in pretty good shape. I can't remember the last time I had a really bad power outage that wasn't planned or I wasn't told about.
Listen, this conversation is like the conversation about Netflix streaming when it launched. On Buzz Out Loud, I said Netflix streaming is the future, and people said, no way. bandwidth caps and slow DSL will kill this in the grave. Netflix streaming will never catch on. And my response was like, listen, bandwidth's getting better. The caps are getting bigger. If they're even implemented at all, Netflix is going to survive this, and it's going to be really big. And it has been. It's the same thing. It's like, yes, this solution isn't perfect for everyone right now. I'm not trying to argue that it is, but things are progressing in a way that indicate that it would be something that most people could take advantage of. I don't think that's the hang up for it. I think it's more trust. I think it's more what Roger's attitude of like, I'd rather have it in my house. That loses you the advantage of always having the latest hardware without having to buy it and maintain it yourself. But there's a trust issue there. That's why I think maybe, Roger, you're onto something. It's not that you want to have the server in your house that serves everything, but you want to have the data storage in your house.
Well, locally.
So you rent the Windows machine in the cloud, but it gets its data from your local storage. You don't store it with them. Although with Blade, you can encrypt it, and you're the only one who knows the password for it. So you have a measure of safety there.
Trust. I mean, assuming you trust, the guys in the Blade backend. I mean, that's the whole thing. I mean, you brought up.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know enough about how it works, but I think if you encrypt a Windows machine in the cloud, it's still encrypted, and if they're I guess the trust issue would be that they're not running a keystroke.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's the same thing with VPNs. VPNs are secure point to point, but you have to trust. But
you are starting to get tinfoil hat at that point.
Well, no,
right?
I wouldn't say it's tinfoil. I think it's just.
So I'm talking about the majority of people who have a minor privacy concern aren't going to go that far. I don't think.
Probably not. I mean, I don't know. We do this in degrees. It's like the.
It comes in waves, and this is the thing. Whenever there's something bad that happens, people swing the other way. Now, how long that lasts, depends on what the issue is. But
they do, or do they? I mean, Facebook is still there with billions of users. You would think they would have swung. I don't think they swing as much the other way as we think sometimes.
But I think, this is part of it is context, right? Like, I don't really put that much important information with the understanding I understand what Facebook is. So
we're not talking about you. You're unusual.
I'm not actually all that unusual.
For Facebook, you are. Yeah, the majority of people put a lot more stuff on Facebook than you.
So we had this debate a lot, like maybe 4 years ago with Darren Kitchen about like people and why they aren't as up on like cybersecurity as they should be. And part of it is unless they're personally affected, unless they see an impact, a tangible impact from a data breach, they're just like, it happens all the time.
To bring that back to the cloud computing, that's why I think most people will say, oh, well, if everybody thinks it's safe, then I guess it's safe. And as long as nothing happens, then they won't worry about it. And if Blade is doing things the way they say they're doing them, which I have no reason to believe they're not, then it is really safe.
I firmly see it being at least 80%, of the way people compute in the next 20 years.
And anyway, where I was trying to go is, so let's say that the majority of people have a general trust that Windows 10 machine is actually encrypted and they weren't running a keystroke logger on you. And maybe there's some new ways to be sure that they're not. You keep your data local, then you're golden, and you get a fast machine always in the cloud that you can use on whatever device you have, with your home server running with data. And a data server doesn't have to be kept
in your home. It could be somewhere else.
Well, no, the point was to have it in your home, just because you don't trust it being somewhere else. Wasn't it? Wasn't that your point?
No, the whole idea is that you have control, whether it's in your house or co-located. So you have a box.
Well, but that's all. Yeah. That's all the Blade is a colo.
I know, but you go to where Blade keeps their servers and say, "Hey, I want to
plug it." Yeah, no, that's a fair point. I don't think you can. I mean, theoretically you could, but I don't think that's part of their service.
That's why you set your BitTorrent clients.
You put your storage out in a colo, like maybe some consumer colos pop up where it's like, you don't have to be a sysadmin, just plug in your data here. But then you have to trust the colo, right?
Well, there's levels of trust. It's not either you trust or you don't. I mean, it goes up and down depending on the person, right? You trust your family. Well, most people trust their families more over the guy who lives across the street. But you probably trust the guy across the street more than the guy you've never met.
Should
what
you?
I mean? Like there's a staircase.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's a valid assessment of trust, though. That's just a feeling of trust.
A
Well,
feeling.
isn't that what you go on?
A lot of people don't
whether
go
or
on
not
there.
your
We're not
trust
talking
is
about what you go on. We're talking about whether you will be harmed by trust.
But that's not trust then. But the trust is the feeling aspect. Trust isn't whether or not it actually, like, your faith in someone, bears fruit.
Well, I guess for whether people adopt the service, then what you're talking about is important. And a colo means, I can meet the person and I'll feel like it's safe. Right?
It'll be like I'm thinking, like, how, like, not co-ops, what do you call it? Not credit banks. What do you call it? Those things that are like banks, but everyone's
Credit
union.
union?
Yeah, credit union. Imagine a credit union sort of version of those services would be kind of cool.
Yeah. That is kind of cool. You take advantage of the financial expertise of a credit union without having to deal with a bank that's who really just wants to make money off of you, not help you protect your finances.
Would you like to use our money market savings account? That's like, well, what's your savings rate? It's better than the CD you're planning to put it in. It's like, all right. Wait, I get 2 bank accounts, or no, 2 checking accounts. I get free use of any non-bank.
Thing is, though, anytime you have to do something like that, people won't do it. They're like, I just want the cloud thing.
Yeah.
I just want it all to be in the cloud and make it easy.
Well, making it easy is the most important part. Like,
yeah. And that's what Blade does. Blade makes it super easy. And there'll be other companies like that too, I think. And this gets back to what Scott's talking about, where you can have the perfect machine always available on whatever crappy piece of equipment you have around.
Yeah, I just think there's some stuff to get over, but I think there's something to be said about that being the thing. And there's too much investment happening right now in this technology, in the way it's made, written, maintained, what companies are making huge investments in the future of cloud computing and AI, which is tied together. Like, there's stuff, man, and we're all going to get services as a result. Whether or not that will happen in the next 5 or 10 years, I don't know. But it's weird. The older I've gotten and the more deep I've gotten more and more to this idea of, like, yeah, I want things as a service and I want stuff finished and done. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to build my own PCs anymore. I want to have a thing that works every time, and I want to make the stuff I'm making, and I want to retain control over that stuff, but I don't need a shelf full of things.
Speaking of things that you want, if you want to listen to any more of the show, stay tuned for the audio only stream on Discord or Zero.
Thank you, video folks, for watching.
Yes.
Audio folks, stick around. There's more to come.
Bye. My segue.